Ayekui, Kishan Lara-Cooper, Kunepsech Nakuchas, Anachen Kina, Nepsech Yurok Tribe, Maloyek, Wanek Walega, Esewe Pureweg, Analen Purao, Necheka Hupa Otwen, Chah-pekw, Esi Espel, Esi Morek Mewachak. We're happy to see you all here today. Thank you for joining us in this celebration. The Chah-pekw O Ket Center for us symbolizes a shift in the paradigm of institutional framework of the state park system. My dad's grandmother has shared stories with him as a young child when they would paddle across this lagoon here behind us. And she would speak to him of a time when her grandparents would be in ceremony or would be gathering as a family, and massacres would happen during that period of time. In our history throughout the state of California, we had contact with non-Indigenous people at a later point of time than the rest of the United States. And there was an attempted extermination of our Indigenous peoples. And for this reason, common citizens of the state of California would hunt Indigenous peoples. This happened so frequently here in this place at Chah-pekw that the people of the villages actually had hiding places to hide when these massacres would occur. Later, several years later, some of these massacres were identified by archaeologists, and they were used so frequently they were identified as actual villages because people had hid there so often. And throughout my grandmother's lifetime, and teaching and investing in her children and her grandchildren Indigenous knowledge, it was an unsafe time to have ceremony. It was a time when many Indigenous peoples were not yet considered citizens of the United States. It was a time when children were being kidnapped and taken to boarding schools and having their names, culture, regalia, identity stripped from them. But those children grew up and they fought for the revitalization and for the preservation of Indigenous knowledge and of our way of life. And so throughout my father's lifetime, he's had a love and connection to this place, grown up here as his grandparents and his great-grandparents have done, but have fought for the protection of the grave sites, protection of ceremony, protection of the culture of Indigenous people. And the partnership with state parks had not yet started at that time. In my lifetime, growing up with my siblings up on the hill at Usamich, watching over Chah-pekw and the villages in the area, and witnessing people coming in to dig in the cemeteries, and always knowing and being aware of watching so that we could protect these places. And now here we are today in partnership with the state park and having a visitor center where people can think of as Indigenous peoples, Yurok people travel up and down the freeway. They can come in and they can be a part of this place. They can share knowledge, they can visit, they can rebuild this connection by having this visitor center. In addition, we now have an opportunity where people who are traveling through can stop and be exposed to Indigenous information from perspective of Indigenous peoples. It's an act of testimonial justice. When we speak of history, when we learn about spaces, when we learn about the geography of the world, oftentimes we hear it from one narrative. We hear it from a textbook, or we hear it from one main person that's sharing the story. This center provides an opportunity to hear a perspective, to hear history that might not have ever been shared before. And in doing that and learning about people themselves and learning about the place from an Indigenous perspective, people that have been here for thousands of years, who have a relationship with the natural, spiritual environments of this place, to share these treasures with the general public is a gift. And we take a moment to silence ourselves and to listen to the history, the culture, and the worldview of people, we ourselves become more enriched in that process. And so this Chah-pekw Visitor Center is a gift to all of us. It's a gift to those that travel through, who have the opportunity to be exposed to new information, to be exposed to what's culturally appropriate, to be exposed and aware of cultural consumption and exploitation as well. And also to people who are from here to have the opportunity to share their stories, to finally be heard in the process.
Lamar, come on in.